Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Mr. Rex Brown. How are you doing today, sir?
Doing well. How are you? Thank you, Alf. Appreciate it.
I'm absolutely ecstatic to be speaking with you. I'd like to start, if I
Cool.
can, with a little bit of a self-indulgent question, if I may.
Sure. Go.
How did you come across the rig video? And I presume you enjoyed it. Otherwise, this is going to be a really awkward conversation.
It popped up in it popped up on my screen. I don't use YouTube on my phone often, and but when it does, it's set for notifications. And so I noticed that you did this. Now, when was this? 6 weeks ago, probably, or
3 weeks ago,
maybe
something like that.
three weeks ago. And so anyway, I left you a little, PM me on Twitter because that's how you can get in touch with me the
That's right.
easiest. I use Twitter. I'm not on Facebook. Well, I am, but I'm not. So we lined this up and wanted to go through some things that you did a great job on the video, but
Thank you.
there are a couple of things that that we need to talk about. So
We can
go
get
ahead.
there. Hit me with it. Well, do you want to start from the beginning? What were you surprised by that? I guess other people wouldn't have gotten.
Um, you put the grabber bass, the first thing that hit me, and it was an old 68 to 70. Um, Gibson made a 339 style bass that I think I was using when I was about 16.
Okay.
I was in jazz band in school, so the they always had Fender Precisions and jazz basses and all that stuff, and I really liked the precision basses because that's what everybody, like some of my favorites, like Phil and just everybody used it. It was a standard, the gold standard. And so anyway, when I was playing with Neck and the Brewheads, I think I don't know where that bass is. I think I played it for a few shows. I was playing a Peavey of all things. I
Really?
forgot about that. That just hit my mind. One of those T60s. I think it was a buddy of mine's. We're still close. In fact, I've given him a lot of gear over the years. And Rick Wiley, if you're watching, there you are, buddy. Um, anyway, it was a ES335 with a grabber pickup by the bridge or by the neck, and it sounded really really cool. And we were playing a bunch of Cream and Sunshine of Your Love. We loved Disraeli's Gears, all that kind of stuff. That was my hippie, and I'm still like that. I mean, I listened to Neil Young, to Gordon Lightfoot, to all kinds of crazy shit, to Led Zeppelin, to I really kind of go back a long way because my sister was 17 years older than I was. And so I got a good mess of all kinds of stuff between my grandmother playing piano in the silent movies. And she also played in a band in the 30s, back at the county line, with her, I guess my great or what would that be? Her brother would be my great
Great
uncle.
uncle? Yeah.
Great uncle,
Great
yeah,
uncle.
great uncle played stand up bass while she played piano, and it was all chicken wired. I've heard the stories, and they had a little band, and so anyway, my father passed when I was young, when I was about 7, and it was also about the time I heard ZZ Top on the radio, which good on you, you put that in. That really really changed my life because all you could get was 80 AM radio back in the day. I'm trying to condense this in 1 hour. It's going to be fucking hell. So, um, let's see, where do we go from there? My mother, my mother and dad were 40 when they had me. So my dad was in World War II. So they came from that era. So it was a lot of swing band that was piped through the intercom, when I was growing up. So that my sister's early Beatles, Stones, Elvis association, Turtles, to you name it, was left over. And then we had AM radio where I lived because I lived in a small peanut town. Um, and you could all you could hear was bands like America, you know, Brad, James Taylor, that kind of era when I was could finally, you know, at 6 or 7 years old, kind of growing up listening to that kind of music. And Neil Young, which he just had Harvest out, that was a brain changer. Um, and then I heard ZZ Top, and it was just, you know, that was just it like hit my ears like a ton of bricks. I mean, it's something that I think that Pantera, because we were from Texas, we had a lot of you know, had a lot of if you're from Texas, you're a ZZ Top fan or you're not. You know, they had the blues. They were, you know, you go back to their, you know, late '60s beginnings. Um, it's just it's one of those things, and I had heard Tush on the radio in '74 before I moved to the big city of Arlington, where Pantera formed, and that's basically we Pantera. We just took that style of boogie, what we call Texas boogie, and we we just played it a lot faster 10 years later, 15 years later, you know. So that's where I put it together, the three piece, you know. That's where we got the sound. So anyway, heads up to ZZ Top.
So you've got like so much musical background there that you're drawing inspiration from. Would you say that there was a bass player or a sound that you gravitated towards that you wanted to emulate?
You know, there was a lot of Motown on the AM radio, and it was a lot of um, you know, Marvin Gaye was coming up, and you didn't hear that, but on urban FM stations, but you did hear all the early James Jamerson stuff, and I think that really hit a chord. I didn't really know until I was 10 years old, going into to band, and they said, "Well, you have to." You know, I'd already taken up the acoustic guitar at the age of 9. Um, and I already had all these skills from my grandmother playing piano, watching her play Al Joplin, and you know, um, it was just insane. Poor woman, I used to drag by her hand, and you know, into she had a stand up piano that was in the big huge place that my family had in Fort Worth. It was not very far, but my dad was sick and died in '72. So I was always stuck with Granny, and I used to drive her crazy playing that piano for 5 or 6 hours a day. And she had arthritis, and she was probably 75 at that point. And but she taught me a lot. I think I've had probably as true to form perfect pitch early on in my life as anyone has. So um, I can get pretty close, you know. Um, so there's all kinds of different sounds that are in my head. I mean, you have all these influences bouncing around, and then you know, I joined jazz band. They said, "Well, you're too good for the drum line. We could use you somewhere else," and that's a tuba of all things. And I weighed a whole, you know, 60 pounds, buck, you know, buck naked wet, and so they were trying out for. I remember they had a lab band, and so they were trying to recruit players, and they had a Fender Jaguar um, that they wanted me to play, but every downbeat, like every single 1, 2, 3, 4, were different notes on the, and you're supposed to read these, and I just wasn't that far along, but I knew the bass clef because I used to follow my grandmother's left hand and knew what those notes were, and that's the only way I can really figure that. When I picked up the bass, it just came naturally to me, you know. And there was so many guitar players because everybody wanted to be a guitar player, but there was no bass players. So I really kind of came in demand and learned a lot through schooling. It was back in the days where schooling, you know, the arts in schools meant everything. They really did. I had, you know, 3 classes of band and then a lab band class, and you're sight reading music, you know, as you go along. And I got pretty good. Now, if you tried to put a piece of music in front of my face today, it would take me a while, but I could get it probably. I haven't done that in a while, but I've just been, it's been music my whole life, you know, and so Yeah, there we go.
That leads to a really good question. That when it came to the bass, what was it that made you keep playing as opposed to the guitar or the drums or even the tuba? What was it about bass that kept you?
Well, it was kind of when I think it was probably 12 or 13, started my first band with one of the kids in class that was playing drums. And this is about the time the Kiss came around, so the Kiss thing was huge. Think if there wasn't ever a Kiss,
Mm.
you wouldn't have had this generation of these other guys popping around that are my age now. That was it. That was it was just the image and the whole thing. But if you actually listen to the riffs, they were really cool. So we had a little Kiss. I wouldn't say cover band, but we played that, and we played, Thin Lizzy, stuff like that we all kind of enjoyed. But I was playing guitar. And then we had another little bass player guy, but he couldn't do it, and it just never sounded right because I knew that I could always top that. So I'm still doing it today with my solo records. I'm playing bass and guitar, and you know, so there you go. Yeah.
I do
What do
want
you
to.
do?
I do want to talk about your solo stuff. But you said before we started rolling, you want to set the record straight with your gear. So can we
Yeah,
do
let's do
like
that.
a quick summary? If you can, I don't know, if we can guide it
Quick,
very quickly.
quick summary. Dude, I was really, just let me say that I was really flattered by by the video, and you got it almost completely correct.
Thanks, dude.
You really nailed it. I mean, it really brought back a lot of good memories, the man, to be in a rock and roll band, it's like that ECDC song. It really is. It's a long way to the top. You want to rock and roll, so you go through all kinds of gear, and then you're just trying to find the best. I was trying to find the best sound that I could any given time with what you had to go with.
Mm.
Um, we played the clubs. Um, we played the clubs for about 6 to 7 years, and went through two different singer, or more than that, different singers till we found Philip. Early Pantera years, playing through. I believe I had a little GK 800 head, and I had an Ibanez multi effect that I got from a Texas legend. His name is Rusty Burns, a blues great. He's passed on now. That I got, and I still believe I have that in a case somewhere. It actually had it was a multi effects that was rack mounted, but it came with a cord and had pedals on it, and it had chorus, and it had like a stereo kind of delay, and it was terrible. It was just one of those kind of like $300 job multi effects thing, but it had a parametric EQ on it, which I liked. And then I found something that was called a Basics made by Rocktron. Um, and so I picked up one of those, and that was dynamite because it had a distortion thing on it. And somehow we lost the foot pedal to it, so it was always that distortion part was on. Then I found Sans amps. So let's just put it this way: going through the clubs, I played through a 412 cabinet and an 18. Okay,
I was wrong then.
the rest of the stuff are dummies, right? So at first it was just a 15, and then we added a 412, and that sounded really good. Now I don't know why I didn't ever use 412s as my main, because that's what a lot of guys like say. I think Jack Bruce used 12s, but that was the British thing to do, in the Cream days, because that's all, you would get a clean Marshall amp and just crank the shit out of it, and that's all, and so and I don't think they started making bass amps until the 70s. So um, a lot of bass players use 412s. I know Geezer used 412s. Anyway, let's go to 6 years later, and all the guitars you already mentioned are correct. I think the first I had a bunch of different guitars during that era, but they're not even worth mentioning. The Ibanez that I put on layaway was my bass forever. I put EMGs in that. Then I got a Hamer, like you saw that, the red one. That one got, I think I smashed it on somebody's head. That one had EMGs in it also. So I started using EMGs from a very early age, or in my professional career, I was 17.
What
So,
did you notice
but
about the EMGs that drew you to them? Was it other musicians using them? Was it just something you heard?
it was just more, you just had more definement, especially playing with a pick. You had more of a gain, like, you see the settings into amplifiers where it says minus, 15 dB on every input. That's for active or passive. And I've always just liked the active side of the things. It just depends on, well, do you have enough headroom in your amp to boost the bass? It gets to a certain point where it farts out, with passive things. With active ones, it really starts farting out, the way that I played. But that kind of just, it kind of, with the distortion, it kind of sucks it up a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So up until we signed with Atco Records in '89, I didn't have an Ampeg or anything like that. So I got an endorsement deal. I had to pay for those. I had two 810s and then two SVT 2. I think they're just SVT 2s.
Okay,
They
yeah.
don't make pros.
The original ones, yeah.
And so one of them, since then, one of them got stolen. The other one, I gave him to that buddy I was just telling you about, Ricky Lee. How there, Rick. So anyway, everything was correct, and going in through '91, I was still using the Charvel because that was the signature sound, but I was also using that Rocktron bass thing. When we go into '91 through '92, it's kind of a different area because I was using, we played club dates. We played 338 dates on that Cowboys tour, up until we started recording Vulgar a month later after we got off the road. So we were piping hot. And you got something over your head there, an old fucking sprinkle or something. So it's on the screen, bro. So anyway, during that time, we were playing a bigger crowds, and so I started adding cabinets. Now, so the top ones were dummies usually, but at that point I had 6, so I had 3 on the bottom that were real. I liked to hear them on the bottom because it would, man, you could feel that power, coming up under your legs. And I used the SVT Pros, and you could just jump them. You know what I'm saying? Take the outs,
Yeah.
go into whatever you wanted. And then my sound man came up with an idea of, well, why don't we just use a preamp? But I'm still using this Rocktron basics, right, with the distortion. And I said, screw that. Let me find a fucking something that's going to work. And I found that Sans amp. So, and I don't know who turned me on to it, but that little box I've played since 1990. And I've used, Tech 21 stuff all of my career. I still use all their stuff. In fact, there's a pedal I want to get from them, and I haven't got it yet. But they just came out with the new version 2 of that old PSA.
I saw, yeah.
1000.
I want to get my hands on that as well.
Yeah, it's really cool. But it's an actual pedal, and it's not a rack mount. So anyway, yeah, they make incredible tones. I don't know if you ever checked their pedals out there. So anyway, so we went through the power amp thing, and I just didn't like it. And then we started I was using, they were just coming out with the VR series. They were the 300 watt heads, and those could do it all. You know what I'm saying? I could put 4 cabs up into those, and it was perfectly fine. And I ran those all the way through with the Sans amp and just the chorus and the wah pedal. Wah pedal was later on, like after Trend Kill. But I never used that bass distortion pedal. It was just in my rack somewhere. It was never in line. just because it sounded like shit. And I could get as much. I play really hard, extremely hard. Like when I down pick and stuff, that it's almost breaks up the speaker anyway. Because of the active pickups. So that being said, there was no need for any kind of fakey, gainy. When you plug those things in, they do this. Oof, it just sounds like you can't hear. There's no definition. And I like to split the signal between what you could get. You could run into this Sans amp, and then you could also just run it through your amp, and then you would get a direct signal out to the front of the house, and you're good to go, or to the monitor man, whatever you needed. So I used that up till 96, and then they came out, or 95, then they came out with the SVT 4, and those I used all throughout the rest of Pantera.
Mm-hmm.
So nothing changed in the rig except for different wirelesses that were up to date. Nothing changed as far as picks. The different basses we'll talk about here in a minute. I want to get to the gear of amps. In 2000, I went to St. Louis Music and worked with Ted Kornblum, who now runs Magnetone, which I just got an endorsement with Magnetone for the solo stuff. And they make some of the best amps, dude. They're fucking nuts. So Ted, I worked with Ted and a guy named Doc Schraden, and we built this cabinet that was ported inside. So it was an SVT like regular 810, but it was ported inside of this huge cabinet that weighed like 150 pounds. And I still have those. I still have like 4 or 5 of those. I use 5 810s behind me on the reinventing the Steel tour. Usually I'd use 4.
Yeah.
Also the 10s were real cabinets. The 2 10s on top of fakes. They weren't even plugged in. But I had a feed off of Darrell on 2 cabinets in the middle, which sounded really great. And he loved the sound of those. In fact, he recorded with those on Reinventing the Steel.
No way. I was going to ask, on stage, there was usually a green tape on some of your amplifiers. Are they the ones that is that your sound, or is that Darrell's coming through? Does that ring a bell?
At a certain point, I think Dom was going through 810s at a point. When we had them laid down, I had to have a feed on my side so I wanted to hear them, so I don't know what the green tape was for. It could be very well for picks that were on top of the amps.
Okay, yeah.
That's probably what that was.
Okay.
So there wasn't, unless you saw, a green tape where the mic would be. That's the only thing I could think. I don't remember the green tape unless they had put the fluorescent back there so we could see between songs. Back then I was used. Dime used to enter these contests when he was about 15 or 16 years old.
Yeah.
And he would win all these free Marshalls and these Randall, that he really, I don't know why he just never took to the Marshalls. I just think he didn't like that sound.
Uh-huh.
He was trying to go for more of the Metallica sound. And all the Metallica records are Mesa Boogie.
Mm.
Back in those days, they were using a whole bunch of Mesa stuff. And I think the Solid State is for it anyway. So since he was getting all this stuff, Randall finally endorsed him. We were still in the clubs, and I said, well, can I get a 15 and 2 12s? And I think you got that pretty right, yeah, on the back in the day. And they were and then we had dummies. Now look, everybody in this whole
I know that
rock and roll business uses dummies. You can't carry that. I mean, look, my garage I'm in my ranch in New Mexico right now, and so at my house in Texas, I have the whole like 2 or 3 back lines of, I must have 18 SVTs there. You can't get rid of those
No.
things. I tried to give them to schools, and they're like, "Well, sure, just send them over." And I'm like, "No, I need a budget that you can, you know, it costs, $400 to just ship one of those
Mm.
things." So anyway, I still got a lot of that gear, and I still use a lot of it. We only used dummies between 88 and or all of the 80s, and then a little bit into 93, and then from then on they were all real cabs. But we had to put them in, like you had mentioned, the big sturdy racks, which I didn't particularly like because I like to put them together.
Yeah.
In those racks they wouldn't fit together, so we made the racks where they butted up, but at the back you could just fold them down, and then they would roll. And they had a little expensive shit. Staging is pretty expensive stuff, so they would have tops on the front so it wouldn't mess with the speakers. But um, what was the crazy rig I had with the three different, like the individual fake heads on them? Anyway, I'd seen like Nikki Six back in the day had tried that, and I thought that looks pretty cool. I think I'll just steal it, you know. So anyway, yeah, that's what that was.
We're up to about 2000, so there was your new signature basses from Spector, wasn't it?
Yeah, I started using Spectors. Rachel Boland turned me on to a guy that was building. Stuart wasn't very well known. He built his first. It was an Ed Steinberger design. That's why it's called the NS2. Of those Spectors, and really he got a little bit of distribution from Kramer back in the 80s, but not big time. Um, and he really started concentrating on making his custom shop basses in the early 90s. And Rachel was a really good friend of mine, still is. I haven't talked to him in a while. I presume we're still good friends. Um, but he sent down about 3 or 4 basses to the studio. I said, are y'all doing anything? Can you mind if I borrow just to see if I can find one I liked? And I think it was this sparkly one that he had. That, man, I played it in for uh, 5 minutes alone of one of those. I can't remember what song it was, but it just fit through the mix. I mean, it was so like that's what we've been looking for forever. That, and I always liked the way Eddie Jackson's from Queensryche. His sound was really woody, and it had the wood sound to it, but it still had that definition. I think it had to do with the wood. So um, I commissioned all kinds of basses from Stewart. I probably had, by the end of 2000, I had 30, and then we did my prototype of the Telly, um, or that was later on. We actually did the Firebird thing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So actually, I'm working with Gibson right now. I have a whole new collection coming out this next year, and it's all Thunderbirds,
No
which is
way.
really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I had a Thunderbird. That's about the time I got the Thunderbird, was like 95. Um, I'd had one for years and years, and just loved the way they look. So that's how we came up with the idea for the Spector, kind of rip off of what that was. Those are actually um, those basses started to appear in like 98. So
That's early.
they didn't officially come on the market till 2000 when, but I had plenty of them. Yeah, 97 on.
I noticed briefly, but you started using Thunderbirds in Down. How did you pick that for Down?
I mean, they have a woolly sound to them. It kind of, I, I think that was my old one from 95. And I think I bought, or Gibson had given me another one or two. And then I was in Germany, and this guy gave me one, and I've just always loved, like, Pete Way from UFO, and I just love the look of those things. And they play great. In fact, I can go get my epi in here. They just sent me yesterday, but I'll save it for another time. I've got two. I've got two Gibsons coming out. I've got two Epiphones. One's a standard, and the other one's a non-reverse, which it's like and
Yeah.
it's really it's in a oh god damn it! It's called the Rex Brown Talon Thunderbird Talon collection,
That's
and
awesome.
it's so cool, man. Just working with Gibson, it's just been a blast. So we're getting really close to having everything done, and that as soon as we get the bases made, which I'm pushing them to do, now that we have it finally, I just have to test out some pickups, and then we're mass making these things, and I'm also doing a new Tobias bass. So go ahead after down.
I know I guess you want to pick the right bass for the right job. Has Gibson always been on your mind, or just like I need to work with Gibson at this moment in time
you
and
know,
get this tone?
Fender's always been the gold standard. I mean, so I started. I went in. They were going to make me a Rex Brown model, and they flew me in. They flew me into LA several times over the last 3 years, and just nothing ever came from it. It's like standing in line over at Fender, and I was like, screw it. I went. Gibson flew me to Nashville, and that's where all my stuff is. I basically moved operations out of LA to uh, to Nashville in 2015, and that's where I've been working at the studio that I work at. It's my little workshop, and got some really good friends there. And he's an incredible engineer and producer. And he did the first record, and we've also been sitting on a record for a year, but this coronavirus that just came in. We're going to put it out in the spring. Now, we can't tour on it, which I'd planned on doing. I didn't tour on the first one because I didn't have enough material. I needed another record because I don't want to go out there and just play covers as,
No.
like a Stranglehold. Or something. So, yeah, I've been just sitting and waiting. And speaking of ZZ Top, I just got their management. So it's kind of weird that, 7-year-old boy on a bike with a AM radio is now managed in the same company as ZZ Top. That's insane.
That's got to be surreal.
It's nuts. It is. You kind of pinch yourself sometimes, but I've been in this business long enough to know that, everything happens for a reason, and timing is everything. So I know three things you're going to ask me about. Why Hartke? Why Warwick?
No.
And why Seymour Duncan? Okay.
2 out of 3.
3 reasons.
2 out of 3.
There's
but
3 months.
Go on.
3 reasons. Bass players never got paid anything for endorsing products, ever. Guitar players are getting paid out the ass. So I took it upon myself to just start, everybody wanted to have my name on stuff. So, but you're going to have to pay for it, So, you build up a good reputation with someone, show them what you're made of. And then, so I started getting paid for endorsing products, and I feel like a whore for it. But at the same time, it was an extreme amount of money for just
Why not, Rex? Why not?
being myself. I mean, why not get a payday every once in a while? So the thing with I mean, I hadn't even told Warwick about the Gibson thing yet, so it's going to come out on their channel, but it's not a big deal. I don't,
I'll
hi
cut it out
Hans,
if you
I'm
want.
sorry, man. Yeah, we will. No, we won't. We'll leave it there. Hi Hans, sorry. This is sorry it's public, but I'll send him an email here after we get done. But it's just he doesn't have distribution for his basses in the States, and they're not selling anything. So why stick around? But he's just been such a great friend. Spector and I had a parting of ways. That company almost went down, and I was help floating it, and I felt kind of. I went to a NAMM show, 2014. He didn't have one of my basses up there, and I just felt like, well, this sucks. And I'd always been to NAMM shows and kind of stuck my hand around, the just to see what the
Yeah.
Warwicks felt like without being seen, and without picking them up and actually playing them. And I did that in 2015 because I was, I've got so many Spectors, it's ridiculous. I've got enough to play for forever. In fact, I used one of my old ones on this last recording, fretlesses and all kinds of stuff that Stuart had made me over the years. I played a lot of fretless on this record. I just like the sound that it came for the song. So anyway, I mean, it's not that crazy stuff. It's just, a fretless it's just a regular bass. It just doesn't have frets. So so Warwick, they came fucking beating on the door, and flew me out to Germany immediately, like 2 weeks after NAMM, after I met them. And we designed about 4 different basses, and they never have put them up for sale. So I don't know what the deal is. It was cool. I mean, I would go there and it's a beautiful fucking factory they have. But it was just one of those things where they were trying to, slink me off of this upside down Explorer. Again, the
reverser?
Thunderbird. Yeah. There's your Thunderbird reference again. This is just upside down. It has pointy edges. But all their basses sounded great. The only thing I had to do was I didn't like the way they sounded when they came out with the thumb bass, and the thumb bass still today sounds like shit. So, when me and Don were sitting there about 93, or we're fixing to hit the road, or maybe after that, they'd send me a couple of basses, and they look like coffee tables, and I was like, man, that's just not going to fly. I got to find something that's going to be more solid. That's why I stuck with the Music Mans. And so anyway, the Warwick thing was, it was fun. It was great. I just, I've got these Gibsons are so freaking cool. They're putting me on the Icon series and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, it's going to be really neat. I'm really excited. It's a new chapter.
Judging by the way that, if I can say so, that your personal solo albums are going, that Gibson fits right in there with that whole tone and, I don't know, just the whole aura of everything. It really fits.
They've really, going and meeting the whole team there, and they want to get back that feeling of the old, everybody wants the old, the vintage stuff. And they really made a concerted effort to make this, like 2 days ago, they sent me an Epiphone. I could swear it would have been it sounds just as good as a Gibson. I mean, if not better, so the stuff they're doing with the Epiphone too. And plus they bought they had Steinberger left over. And so that's, Steinberger is crazy, from his tuners to his electronics. Steinberger is really going to be the guts of these basses.
Awesome.
On the inside. Yeah. He makes a tone pot that these will sound all right. They'll look like Gibsons and sound like Gibsons, but they'll have these tone pots inside the guts that will be just insane, man. So I'm excited.
And is that on the new album, or is this just Speaking Now brand new?
I played my Black Thunderbird. I don't think it's ever been shown in public. Maybe he has. Black with gold hardware, all gold.
I think I've seen it in the Ernie Ball video for the Cobalt.
Yes, that's it.
Cobalt
That's it. Yeah, I've been playing that a lot in the last 4 years. As much as I told them the other day, it was sitting at their headquarters, and I told them, hey man, put some new frets in that dude. They're shot. So there's a lot of history in that bass. The thing went around the world with me about 16 different times. It didn't have tuners on it or any. It was just a block, and sitting inside of some kind of case of some kind. And we found it, and And I was doing a record at Willie Nelson's studio at Pedernales in Austin in about 2010. And it just a one-off for like, I think it was for a movie or something like that. It was me and Terry Date and this other friend of mine that I write a lot with, or have for the last 10 years, Lance Harville. And so anyway, yeah, that's where that bass really, we made it from like, just Frankenstein up, and it looks like a freaking $1 million with everything gold on it, including the Gibson logo.
Dude.
It's insane, fabricated. Now let's talk about my guitar collection in 10 minutes. No, we can't do that.
When it comes to your solo albums, is there anything you feel like you've gotten better at doing?
Playing guitar and singing at the same time. It's always been a goal of mine to do that. And I play guitar. Sometimes Dime and I would just switch. Here, come up with something different. Sometimes when you do that, you come up with different riffs. It's weird when you play somebody else's stuff, or there'd always be a guitar sitting around the studio, and sometimes that would be helpful if we were ever, get to a point where in the song we need a good key change or something like that. He would pick up a bass, and it's really, it's really easy to write on the bass more than it is on guitars. You have to hit all the strings and then back. Where when I write on the bass, I can hear all those other strings in my head. That makes any sense?
Yes.
So I wanted to do something more where I could play those notes that I was hearing in my head instead of just the root note the whole time, because I know what to do with the root note, and it for me, it's just a challenge. Can you do this? Apparently, look, I'm not this 25-year-old pissed off at the world dude anymore. I'm in my 50s and still loving life, in glorious New Mexico. I'll spread the camera around. But, sitting at the ranch, and it's just, life takes you where it takes you, and don't try to beat it, just go with it. That's what I've learned the best.
I think that's a great approach, for sure.
So yeah, and plus I have a lot of fun making those records. This next one is coming out in the spring, probably February, I think. I really want to get it out. We were talking this morning about putting a teaser video out, or actually just a video out of a song that I wrote a while back. A lot of these songs I'd had for a long time, and we just kind of revamped them and put them up to snuff. And but I've in no way, because it's Nashville, has it turned me into. I just, if anything, it's helped me to be a better songwriter, and in terms of the broad picture of where I want to go. And I've really, just ran into some really, really great musicians and some really great people in Nashville. That's where everybody kind of moved to, So you had this big pot of stew that's got everybody in it, from rock and rollers to metal guys to country guys, and it's still the country reflection. And the cowboy hat has nothing. I just threw this on because my hair's in a state of unrepair right now in Corona. So all I wish for is, I hadn't talked to the fans in a while. I wanted to say hi. I'm alive. I'm doing great. And without the fans, I wouldn't be anything. So, check out the new record, and it'll be out soon. And hopefully I answered any of your questions you might need. And we got you straight on everything.
I'm glad for it, Rex. Thank you.
Look at how this all turns out. I see, and I say, PM me, man, and there we go. Yeah. I'll tell a quick story. If you still recording?
Absolutely, go for it.
I was sitting on the back of a bus in 2014, and my kids were 14 years old. I'd been on the road for 32 years, since I was 17. I think I'm doing the math right. And an epiphany came over me. I just said, look, this has got to stop. I've got to take a couple of years off, not only for myself, but, for my sanity, my health, for everything you get off the road for in the first place. The band was still humping it kicking ass every night. And it was Kill Devil Hill, but that when I got out the back of that bus and they dropped me off at home, that was when I said, goodbye to that. It was fun jamming with you guys, and I should have told them then, but I really didn't, just kind of left it. I tried to go write some songs with them and stuff, and it just wasn't working out. So, I think they're still kicking around. I'm still friends with everybody I've ever played with. Go pick up the new the new Reinventing the Steel record. It's really good. We got Philip and I remixed it with Terry Day, and it sounds just fabulous.
I think that's probably the best place to stop. Go and pick up the
That'll
remix
work.
Pantera record.
Why not?
Sure.
Had to throw that in there. So I appreciate it, man.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Avi.
Wish
I could reach out and grab your hand. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it, Rex. Take care. You be safe out there.
See you, bro. Later.
Bye.